Okay, let's assume you've never heard of the Enneagram ever, all right? In this video, I'm gonna show you the 7 things that will make the Enneagram simple, that will get you to your main type, and that will clear up any confusion. All right, if you take away anything from this video, let it be this one thing, and that is the Enneagram is all about internal motivations, not behaviors. So for example, Sally and Susie are both morning risers, right? They like to get up an hour before everybody else, go on a brisk walk, make their coffee, make the bed, and just have time for themselves. While they're both doing the same behavior, they're both having this early morning routine, the reason that they're doing it is different. Sally wakes up early to fortify her inner solitude. She's an Enneagram type 5, so she experiences the world as intrusive, right? I like to think of it as like you start as like a big full glass of water, and then things that happen throughout the day, like a meeting that could have been an email or an uncomfortable conversation that you didn't plan for, those things drain your energy, they drain your cup of water. So Sally's early morning routine, that is for her to build up that cup of water, to fill it up, make sure she's recharging and taking that time for herself. Susie, on the other hand, wakes up early to be selfish. This is the only time of day that she allows herself to have needs and take care of her desires. She's an Enneagram type 2, and she has learned through her self-discovery process that she needs that time in the morning before she's spending the rest of her day taking care of employees, her dogs, her kids, her husband, right? This is something that she needs in order to say, hey, I matter and my needs and desires matter. We share behaviors with everybody, whether that be watching too much TV or struggling with procrastination or eating too much junk food. Like, we all do those things, right? But the reason behind them is different. So if you can look at it through that lens, can you see how if you approach the Enneagram looking at behaviors, it can really confuse everything? The only way to know your main Enneagram type is to look at why you do the things that you do, which is basically like your core desires, your core fears, all of those internal motivations. And this brings us to step number 2. Do not, under any circumstances, go on Instagram. I know that sounds dramatic, but if I could redo my Enneagram journey, I would stay off of social media. And I'm saying this as a person who makes Enneagram, Instagram stuff. I love that world. A lot of my business and clients come from that world, and I am telling you, sign out. Do not go on it. Here's the reason why. Memes are awesome, but they are not the way to figure out your Enneagram type. It is gonna confuse you. There are stereotypes out there, and I love that world. It's fun, but I think you should stay off of it until you have learned enough by reading from a book, reading about the types. You've learned enough that you can go on Instagram and take things with a grain of salt. You can discern whether or not that works for you. In the beginning, I don't like when people go on my page and they watch one funny reel and they're like, oh, I identified with the type 1 in that reel, so I'm a type 1. No, like, don't go on my Instagram, like, at least until you've read an Enneagram book. And that way you've been able to gain your own knowledge and your own footing before you step into the world of memes. Step number 3, there are no good or bad types. So recently on my Instagram, there was a comment that said something a little mean about 3s. If you don't know, I am an Enneagram type 3. They said, 3s love to gossip and boost their own self-esteem. They like to make themselves look better by putting other people down. They're competitive about everything and anything. And it was just like a very negative take on a type 3. And it hurt my feelings. And the reason it hurt my feelings is I feel like sometimes there are certain numbers who get a really bad rap online, and people say, oh, you're a 9, that's so good. Like, 9s are just the best. Oh, you're a 2, like, you're really needy. Like, there's a lot of these like stereotypes of what whether the numbers are good or bad, and none of the numbers have any kind of ethics behind them. There's no good or bad numbers, they just are. The cool thing about the Enneagram is there's positive and negative aspects to all of the personality types, right? So I think it's best to go into the world with the belief that everybody has the capability of being the best version of themselves. That furthers compassion for yourself, and it furthers compassion for other people. So that is why I do not believe in good or bad Enneagram numbers. And number 4, take what works, leave what doesn't. At the end of the day, the Enneagram is just a tool. It doesn't define who you are as a human being. It's not the end-all be-all of your life. It is just a guide to discovering more about yourself and furthering compassion for other people. Ian Morgan Cron has a quote that says, like, the Enneagram doesn't put you in a box, it shows you how to get out of the box that you're in. Figuring out your Enneagram type is uncomfortable. You know, you're going through things and patterns that you've been doing your entire life, and you're digging through them with a fine-tooth comb. So I always tell people, think of the Enneagram as you're picking flowers in a field. You're trying to get a bouquet to make your house a better smelling place, right? If you don't like a certain flower, don't pick it. Take what works, leave what doesn't. At the end of the day, all that matters is your personal growth. So if something doesn't resonate with you or doesn't make sense to you, just leave it. It's not that important, it's not that serious. Step number 5, the thing that you've struggled with your entire life, it's totally normal and you're not alone. So Enneagram type 1s have always had this very harsh inner critic, this never-ending self-talk that tells them they need to be better. Guess what? Other people feel that, other people struggle with that. Enneagram 3s, you feel worthless if your parents aren't proud of you, if you don't get that degree, if you don't become a success at that career, you're clinging to that fear so much. Guess what? You're not alone. Other people feel that way, and there are ways for you to feel better. Enneagram 8s, you've probably been told your entire life that you're too much, that you're too blunt, that you're overbearing. Guess what? A lot of other 8s have experienced that. You are not alone. Number 6, finding your Enneagram type should suck. In my time as an Enneagram coach, I've noticed that people have a really hard time digging deeper into their personalities. They kind of bury their heads in the sand like an ostrich. Trust me, I get it. When you really look at your personality, it can bring up some really unpleasant feelings. Richard Rohr has this awesome quote about figuring out your Enneagram type. He says, if you don't sense the whole thing is somehow humiliating, you haven't yet found your number. The more humiliating it is, the more you are looking the matter right in the eye. Your Enneagram type is like your favorite pair of sweats, right? You've had them since college. They're like your favorite thing to put on. You wear them to bed. You've had them for so long. They've got some holes in them. They're worn down, right? But they're yours. It suits you. The good parts of the sweats and the bad parts of the sweats. That's just like your Enneagram type, the good and the bad. And this process kind of sucks. It like challenges your desire to bury your head in the sand. It says, hey, like it or not, this is who you are, the good and the bad. Now, what are you going to do about it? And number 7, it's okay to be wrong. It is okay to think that you are one number and then months or years later decide that you're another number. I actually think that's good. That's taking time to be really self-reflective and figure out who you really are. I like to use the example of Christina Wilcox. If you guys haven't read her book, I will link it down below. It's freaking amazing. This girl has written a book about the Enneagram, all right? She's been making Enneagram content on Instagram for years, and she didn't know her Enneagram type until like a year ago because she took the time to really figure it out. She's a 6, okay? That has really helped her self-development and understanding how best to take care of herself. And that process took time. So it's okay to mess up. It's okay not to know. A lot of people are so freaked out that they don't know their type. Just learn about the Enneagram, let it soak in, self-reflect. It's gonna happen. You're gonna figure it out in time. If you've gotten this far in the video and you're still confused, don't worry, I have made a free typing guide for you. You just have to go down to the link in the description, sign up, and I will deliver it right to your inbox. There is a 5-step process to finding your type, resources, my favorite online tests, and all of those things that will help you find your main type. If you want to learn more about the history of the Enneagram and more in-depth stuff about the Enneagram types, you can go to this video right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.